Welcome back to the People We Meet podcast.
If you haven't already, please like and subscribe to our channel. We'd really appreciate it. Today we are talking with a good friend, Christopher White. We've known Christopher since he was about 2. How old are you now?
29.
Wow. Okay.
Ooh.
So 27 years.
Wow.
And Antonio and Chris's dad, Delano, originally met that long ago. And our families have become good friends over the years. And then Chris used to work for us.
Yes. And he was a very, very good worker. Yes.
Yeah, when we owned a company, Chris worked for us. He had his CDL and drove our big trucks. So that was a few years ago. I don't even remember when that was.
Yeah.
Mid 2010s.
It ended in
teens.
2017.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
So we would love to interview his parents one day soon. So maybe that will happen. But until then, we wanted to kind of focus on Chris's story. He's got a pretty remarkable story that has happened over the past year and 2 days, actually. So happened April 3rd of 2024.
Well, and that's just one.
Yep.
I guess the main one, but
Yeah, the main one.
so I guess we'll get into all
The
that.
That was
most
the second accident.
most impactful
On
day.
April 3rd.
Yeah.
So before we get into that story, can you just kind of tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, a little about your family growing up?
So I'm from Commerce, Georgia.
Okay.
Grew up there my whole life. I've never lived anywhere different, even in a different house. Never moved anywhere, anything like that. My parents, they, helped took care of me the best way they can. Came up, going through a lot of different things that, your average kid isn't supposed to go through. But it was great. I had a great childhood. Came up good. Didn't really have to worry about anything, worry about much. Myself is just, what ended up changing a lot of different things as I got older,
Yeah.
So nothing really major was bad about me growing up. My grow up was great.
Yeah.
Got anything I asked for. A little spoiled, I guess you could say. But
You're the baby.
A little.
yeah, I say a little just because we all got what we wanted. We all got what we asked for. I just somewhat got away with a little bit more trouble than the older ones did.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's just the main thing that I feel a lot fortunate about as far as growing up. That I grew up great. Didn't have to worry about anything.
One thing great that I like about your family is that, so my family moved around a lot, so I'm not used to this, but your family even your extended family all lives pretty close to you,
Yeah.
kind of on the same dirt road.
Yeah.
Is it paved now?
Yeah, it's paved.
Okay,
now.
okay.
It's funny. It's been paved for about, let's say I'm 29. It's been paved probably since I was about 5.
Oh, okay. It's been
5
a while
or
since
6.
I've been there.
Okay, I was
Yeah.
thinking maybe 10 now. Okay.
Yeah, it's been a while since
Okay.
it's been paved. But yeah, my whole family. So my mom's side of the family is all where we live at now, and like close to Madison County. That's my mom's side of the family, where we're all close to each other. As far as like living close to each other, I'm close with my mom's side, my dad's side. I'm close with all of them. Hang around with all of them. Pretty cool with everybody. But we, on my mom's side of the family, we all grew up close to each other. I run up the street, hang out at my granddad's house. So like, it's probably six of us that stay on the same street. You got my household, my granddad's household, his sister's household, his other sister's household. Her kids stay across the street. So my granddad has like three, 4 sisters and a brother that lives on the same street that
Oh
we
my
live
gosh.
on. So we're all on the same street. Then some of their kids are on the same street, and then some of their grandkids are on the same street. So we're all right there with each other on my mom's side. So yeah, it's just one of them.
Wow,
One
that
of
You
them
don't wanna-
things.
That's
In-
unique.
In other words, you didn't want to start nothing in that neighborhood
No,
if you wasn't Ken.
you didn't. Even it's funny because even us as ourselves, growing up, we were a little bit questionable about starting something with each other. The older ones, we were just we don't want to fight today.
Yeah.
So it was just one of them things. But we grew up like my granddad has 10 grandkids out of all of us, and we all every weekend at my granddad's house.
Now, how many brothers and sisters?
Do I have?
Yeah.
I'm the youngest of 5.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm the youngest of five.
Nice.
My oldest brother is 38.
Okay.
My older sister, she's 38. And then my other sister, she's 37. Then you got Catherine. Me and her are only 14 months apart.
Wow.
Which is funny. You would think that, like, with me and her being only 14 months apart, you would think that, oh, they're the closest, they're this, they're that, Which, like, me and her are close, but I'm just as close with all my siblings as
Okay.
all of them.
Yeah.
I don't pick one over the other. Me and Catherine have our ups and downs where, we won't agree on this and that. But then I have another sister that, we'll agree on this, we'll agree on that. And then Catherine's the outcast,
Yeah.
And then there's times where, there's things going on with me and then I'll end up being the outcast, So it's just, we all grew up just the same way as each other. We all grew up loving each other. Just, it was great. I didn't have a bad come up,
Yeah.
So it's funny because, like, most people that have great come ups and as from a child growing up as they see good things at this and that, they have no reason to have like a bad lifestyle or be a part of anything,
Right.
a part of a bad lifestyle. But the older you get, sort of like how talking and the talking that I did, and then my testimony that I gave, a lot of people veer themselves away from the Bible and away from God themselves to, like, they make their own rules to where it's not any more biblical rules, and that's really down the path that I fell the older and older and older I got, So it's just like the older I got, it was just like, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, and so it's just like sort of like an out of sight, out of mind thing, you're not worried about the right way to do it because you don't see it as wrong, So until you read up on a lot of different things and then, pray about a lot of things and you wonder why you're not in a certain position that you want to be in. It's, it's different reasons for it. So that's one thing that I just veered away from growing up. I was just like, man, my parents ain't right about this. I went to church. He said it, but I don't believe it.
Yeah.
So it was just one of them things. It was just like growing up, I just veered off, into my own little space, just to do my own little thing.
In other words, I got to figure it out.
Yeah, it was exactly that, exactly that.
Yeah.
Cause I didn't, basically growing up, I didn't have a reason to say, oh, I don't understand this, or I don't like that, or I don't this and snap. Cause I grew up in church, like we grew up coming to church. My mom and dad used to always tell us, no, you're not gonna do this, you're not gonna do this, and then a lot of things that my mom would repeat a lot is, the 10 Commandments. So like. At one point, you look at it as just like, oh, all I got to do is follow these 10 Commandments, I'll be all right. You don't look into
I'm not
the
a
fact
murderer.
that,
I'm not.
you
Yeah.
don't look into all the things on it, and then you start to get to the point to where you're breaking rules, you're doing certain things, and then you start looking at the 10 Commandments, and then you start realizing, I just committed that sin. But when you hear things in the Bible, or when you hear people tell you, like, God's gonna forgive you for your sins, you just and that, so you don't even think about the 10 Commandments no more. You don't, man, I'll be forgiven. I'm gonna do it anyway. It was just one of them things. That's why, like, I veered off on my own just to, no, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that.
So what was high school like?
High school was actually, let me see what I can find a word to say about this. High school was great. It was great. I had fun. It really wasn't. I was really behind in high school. As far as, like, not behind with class or anything like that. I was just behind everybody else, just because, like, everybody was already doing stuff. So, like, when I got to high school is when I started experimenting with trying other things. Like, oh, let's party. Oh, let's go out and smoke. Oh, let's go out and do this. Let's go out and do that. That's when I started, like, everybody around me is doing it.
To it.
Yeah, everybody's around me doing it. So, like, it's just like one of them things where it's just like, hey, there's only one way to fit in. You got to do that too.
Yeah.
So that's another thing, is just like, when you get to high school, as a person who grew up knowing right from wrong, you're obviously only doing certain things to fit in.
Right.
So that was one of the main things with high school that I guess you could say was a part of my troubles. But high school was great. I was in marching band.
Okay, I was gonna
Yeah,
say.
I was in marching band. I did a lot of drumming, which is crazy because in middle school I played football all the way up through middle school. I played football, like pee wee football, pee wee reg, middle school. But when I got in high school is when I switched up and was just like, oh, I'm gonna do marching band, and it was really the reason because my older sister Allison, she was in marching band in high school, and I loved it.
No,
Like,
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Then what did she play?
she played the clarinet. She's a clarinet player.
Okay.
But it's funny because so she was in marching band. That's where it all started. So when Allison was in high school, me and Catherine were in elementary school.
Okay.
So when we would go to Friday night games, I'd always just be like, nobody that we like, none of my siblings are playing football. Why are we here? You know. So then we'd go. I realized that we were going for these, these band concerts, and I loved them. Loved them, had fun at them, and I realized the love that they all gave each other, which is like not saying that football doesn't do it either, because like the football team is going to show each other love too, but it's going to be it's a different type of love, that you get on the football field than you get in like the marching band room, with all your people. In the football field, you're getting cussed out, you're getting pushed around, and shoved around with stuff that doesn't have to do with football,
Yeah.
So it's just questionable about like, do I really want to be a part of that? Because like I'm the type of person, like I don't hold back from too much. So it's like if something's going on, all right, I'll handle it. That's the way it was with me. But I was just like, no, I'm gonna do marching band, chill out for a little bit, get into it, and then I wanted to do more drumming anyway. So I got into marching band because I seen my sister do it, and then my Catherine, she started marching band too. And me and her are a year apart, so she's a grade older than me.
Okay.
And she was doing marching band, so I was just like, man, I'm getting out of school. I'm not finna go on this football team and this and now. I'm gonna play band like my sisters did, be in a band with all my homies, play drums and hang out and have fun. But it's funny because like I loved it. It took me a long way of understanding understanding my attitude about a lot of things. Because it's funny because being a part of band, it was my sophomore year, so you have to audition for positions on the drum line. You got the pit, which is like piano stuff. You got a piano, vibraphone, xylophone, all those little instruments. You got all the instruments that you play in the pit. But then on the drum line itself, you got a snare drum, a bass drum, and all those different drums that you have out there. You have to audition to be on those positions.
Wow.
And it was funny when my freshman year, I was in the pit, which I was told my freshman year I was good enough to be on bass. Because I was not boasting myself or anything like that. Like I was a really good drummer. I had fun doing
Just
it.
naturally.
He was a really good drummer.
I was just naturally
he
it was
is a
great.
really good drummer.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
But naturally it just came to me,
Yeah.
It just came to me, rhythm, beats. I didn't really have to read music to do certain stuff. I could just do it off my head, and just ride along with it. But so back to what I was saying, going into my sophomore year, I was good. Like they told me, hey, you're good enough to play snare, this and this and that. So I'm going into these auditions, doing all these auditions, thinking I'm finna play snare because that's what I wanted. I wanted to play snare. It was just like, man, I want to play snare because that's when you're one of the top dogs,
Okay.
Just like, man, I want to play snare. I'm getting there. I'm getting there. And they told me then, they were just like, well, the guy who did it, his name is Jeffrey Rouser, and he was actually the first African American drum major at Auburn University.
Cool.
And he taught us a lot.
Yeah.
Taught us a lot. He's one of the greatest guys. One of the greatest band directors I've ever had. One of the greatest guys I've ever had been around. Period. But they just like one thing that he told me then that just like really stuck with me that I was just in my feelings about. He was just like, you're good enough to do it, but you don't have the attitude. You're playing bass. So I got put on bass, and I wanted snare, and they put me on the last, like at the end of bass. Like
What kind of attitude was he looking for?
I'm on bass 4. Like they wanted an attitude of a leader, a leader.
You're messing around too much?
Yeah, quit playing around, quit having attitude about this, quit thinking you can do this, quit thinking you can do that. So I'm just like, man, when he told me I'm playing bass, I was ready to quit. You know what I'm saying? I was like, man, I ain't playing this thing. I ain't doing it. I ain't this and that. So just like the words that he gave me, the teaching he gave me, the thought that I had to go through of going through that, it just molded me to be a whole lot more of an adult person, a mature person, to understand how to act about certain stuff. So I worked it out that year, did what I had to do. The next year, I actually made it to snare because I changed my attitude
Yeah.
that my sophomore year. So I made it to snare, and I was playing snare drum my junior year. I'm playing snare drum, having fun, loving it, this and that. And then I was just like, man, they kept addressing to me like, man, don't forget now. You can't be immature about this. Can't be immature about that. You wanna continue to focus on your attitude and work on this, work on that. So then that's when I changed my mindset when I was in high school on how to lead, or not really how to lead, how to become a leader, which is a part of learning how to lead as well. But it was more of the fact of just like doing certain me. I wanted to do certain things to become a leader, which is one of my main things because you have to learn how to become a leader before you can be a leader in my eyes.
Right.
So that was my main thing, learning how to become a leader instead of just off the top, just I lead, y'all listen, you know. So my senior year going into marching band, I ended up becoming the drum captain of the whole,
Oh my goodness.
you know, the whole drum line. Me and this other girl, I was on drum line with. Me and her both were drum captains, and then it just changed from my freshman year to my senior year being
That's
this
amazing.
like, you know, so that would help me. That's what helped me lead to understand that you can be what you want to be. You can do what you want to do. It's just a matter of the work you have to put in, and instead of doing more talking, do more listening. You know, so it helped.
So
pick
even
up
though
a
you
lot.
were talented, he saw that in you, like he saw a potential leader, but he
Yeah.
he's like, no, you're not gonna do this till you can prove it. That's awesome.
Well, I'm not
Well, he could prove it, but
right.
the attitude.
Well,
I'm not gonna say that. I'm not necessarily gonna say that. Oh, he just seen me as a leader or this and that. But you know, people do see people as how they are, what they are, this and that, and you don't see it yourself. You know,
Right.
it's just like it's sort of like it's like like when you wake up in the mornings. You know what I'm saying? You wake up in the mornings. We don't think nothing of it besides what we want to do that day. You know, you don't think about the fact that hey, somebody didn't get to wake up this morning. You know, somebody's not here with us this morning. So it's just like one of them things that there's another family out there that has to go through this. There's other families out there that has to go through this. So when somebody's talking to you about wanting to be something or wanting you to be something or becoming something, you're not going to see their vision because you're not there yet. You know, you're not at a leading position. You're not a leader. You're not this, and that. And when you do bad things like, you know, run around drinking, run around fighting, run around with miscellaneous women, like anybody, you know what I'm saying? So it just does, you don't see the vision that this person's trying to give you because in the mindset at the time, you somewhat don't want to be a part of it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Not saying that you don't want to be a part of it. It's like you want to be a part of it, but you don't understand how to be a part of it until this person coaches you through it.
Yeah.
And so it's just like one of them things where it's just like I said, you got to learn and understand how to do more listening and talking sometimes, you know. So that's what led me to be more of the person that I was in high school, coming out of high school.
Yeah.
But even then, it was, man, that was starting from the bottom. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Man. And I went through some crazy stuff after that, you know.
Well, you mentioned that when you do something, you like to go all out. And then I've heard you say before that you were an adrenaline junkie. So when did that start? Like from a kid? Were you jumping off
Yeah. So
high places
when I was
from a kid?
when I was a kid,
And remember that we don't have boys, so
right.
you know, I don't know. You weren't really an adrenaline junkie, were you?
I played football.
Yeah. So
But none of my girls are adrenaline junkies. So
Yeah, as a
tell
kid,
us, tell us what that means.
as a kid, I was just looking for something. So you know when you go to Six Flags, right? You go to Six Flags, you get on this, you get on this roller coaster, and then before you get on the roller coaster, you're riding, and you're looking at that thing like, man, it's gonna be fun. Like you're gonna like it. You looking, you can't wait to get on that thing. Then you get on it. When it starts taking you up in the air, and you realize how high you are up there in the air, how high you're going, that's when you start doing, like, man, I don't know about this. I don't know about this. So like, when it drops you, you that feeling that you get when it takes your stomach. You get that adrenaline feeling. You get that happiness feeling. You get that feeling of just like, man, I can't believe I'm even doing this right now. So it's just like that's the adrenaline thing that you look for. Something that's just gonna get you just like, man, having like feeling a certain type of way as far as that, like you just can't control it. Like you can control it, but
But it
You can't
becomes
control
addicting
it.
too.
Yeah, because it becomes like an addictive thing of feeling that you want to do. Sort of like people who go skydiving.
Yeah.
You know, like they do it for adrenaline.
Yeah.
Riding motorcycle. Not saying every person who rides a motorcycle does it for adrenaline, but when you get on a motorcycle and you do crazy things on it, you're doing it for adrenaline. You want speed. You want to feel like, you know, something's about to happen that you don't want to happen.
Yeah.
You know, so it's just an adrenaline thing that you look into feeling. You know.
Well, you say that, and it's just like I can remember growing up. A couple of my friends had motorcycles.
Yeah.
And it's just like you go a little bit further, a little bit further, a little bit further, and it's just like, man, it's always you're pushing the limit.
Right.
You know.
Right. Yeah.
So
Pushing
how-
the limit. That's one of them things.
How old were you when you got your first motorcycle?
So first motorcycle, dirt bike, or four wheeler. Like,
All the above.
so I started riding when I was like 4 or 5. That's when I got my first. Well, I was like 5. That's when I got my first four wheeler, and this is when I was young, staying at my grandparents' house. So, well, I'd say I was about, maybe I was a little bit older. I had to be about 6 or 7, because you met my dad when I was 2, and they were working, and I got my first four wheeler when my dad was he was in prison.
Okay.
He had went to prison. So my granddad, my mom, my uncle, and all them, they got me and my other cousin Brittany. They got me and her a four wheeler. So me and her rode a lot, and I remember just waking up on Christmas morning, stepping out and seeing it, and just ear to ear, eyes wide open, you know. So I was 4 years old when that. I say about 4, but I don't think it was 4, because I don't think I can't remember. I was in. It was like I was born in '95. Well, I had to be about 5, because I was born in '95. My dad went to prison in like 2002. Well, no, 2000. Because when I was in 2nd grade is when he got out of prison. So yeah, in 2000 is when he went to prison. 2002, 2003 is when he got out. And while he was in prison is when I had my four wheeler. You know.
Okay.
So I had it. We were staying with my grandparents when I got it, right up the street from us. So I had my first four wheeler. And my dad got me my first dirt bike. So he was out. And I got my first dirt bike probably like, it had only been a year after I got the four wheeler. So I rode dirt bike. And then once I got on a dirt bike, it was over with. I loved it. I was just like, man, I'm a 2-wheel guy. You know?
Yeah.
So I had my dirt bike. It lasted for a year. Got another one. It lasted for a couple years. Then but every time I got another one, we went up in size. So my first dirt bike was 50cc, then I had an 80cc, then I had a 100cc. Just kept going up. But after that, it got to the point to where I had that last dirt bike all the way up till I was about 14 or 15. When I got in high school, that dirt bike was over with. But I had a cousin. A lot of my family that were my age who had dirt bikes growing up, the guys at least, they were all older than me, because I hang out with the older crowd. I like the older crowd, which I hang out with everybody, even the younger crowd. But like then I was around the older crowd. I wanted to hang around them, be around them, all this stuff. Well, my cousin got his first motorcycle, his first crotch rocket. And I used to just love to see it, love to hear it, all this stuff. And I was only like 15, 16 at the time. And that's when I was just like, man, let me ride that thing. Yeah, I was 15, because I was like, man, let me ride that thing. I was only like a sophomore in high school, and he was just like, go ahead. So I get on, I ride it, and that was it. That's just like, that's what took it over for me. I was just like, man, I don't even want no car. I want my first vehicle to be a motorcycle. So it's funny, because when I was turning 17, going into my senior year of high school, and I was talking to my dad, letting him know, because my cousin was selling his motorcycle. I was talking to my dad. I was just like, hey, let's buy it. I want a motorcycle. My dad was like, I ain't getting you no motorcycle. You don't need no motorcycle. You need a car.
What'd your mom
You
say?
need a car.
Or did you even ask?
No, I didn't. I skipped right past her. I went right over her head, went to my dad. It was just funny, because like if he would have said yeah and she would have said no, it still would have been no. So, but either way, I went to him, was going to him, was trying to get him to get it for me, but he wasn't going for it. Then basically, I got surprised with a motorcycle. My dad, I have another cousin on my dad's side. The cousin that had the motorcycle that I was riding, that's on my mom's side. So I got another cousin on my dad's side. He had he was moving out of the house that he was staying in, and he had a motorcycle that he didn't ride no more, and it was basically still just sitting at that house.
Okay.
Getting rained on, just sitting there. He didn't want it no more. Didn't want nothing to do with it. So he gave it to my dad for a deal, and then my dad bought it for me. And going into the summer of my junior year. So after junior year ended, it was summer because my birthday's in July. That's when he got that motorcycle. So my senior year, I'm riding a motorcycle to school, back and forth and all that. So that was the fun part. That's when I first had my first actual street bike. When I was a senior in high school. Okay. Then after that, it just took over. I started buying them left and right.
More than one at a time, or would you sell one and buy another?
It started off with me selling one, buying another, but then I would get one, ride it, sell it, buy another one, ride it, sell it, buy another one. But every time I sold one, the time period that I would go without one would just drive me crazy, because I still had a lot of family that rode. I still had a lot of, so it would just drive me crazy. So it was just like, hey man, how about I just buy to keep two? That way when I get ready to sell one,
Oh gosh,
I have another one that I can rely on instead of this. So it got to the point where I got tired of selling stuff because I didn't want to. I knew I was gonna want it again, which is crazy because like I look at it now, like I got 3 motorcycles now, still right now. But don't ride none of them. Okay. So it's just funny, just like looking at it then, how I was just like, man, I don't want to get rid of it because I'm gonna want it back. I know I'm gonna want it back. I'm gonna want it back. This and that. I question myself now about selling the ones I have now. I was just like, man, I don't ride it no more. I'm gonna sell it. But as soon as I say I'm gonna sell it, about 5 minutes later, I look back at it and I tell myself, man, I ain't selling nothing because I'm gonna want it. I was just like, I'm gonna want it back. So that was just a big thing about it then, compared to where it is now, which I probably should sell them, but I'm not going to.
Well, I hate to be a downer, but so you've had a couple wrecks on those motorcycles. Yeah. How many on the motorcycles?
Because the out of all the motorcycles and 4-wheelers that I've had with wrecking, being in the hospital, this 4-wheeler was the only one that was really mine. Like that was actually mine. The first wreck, when I messed my knee up, I wasn't on my motorcycle. I was on somebody else's.
Okay, now we don't know about that. So
yeah, this was a guy. So
well, I kind of know about it.
This was a guy that I used to hang out with. Stayed in the neighborhood. We used to just hang out, drink a lot. Like we would drink a lot of beer, sit around, hang out at his house. We were sitting over. We met up that day. I was in my truck. He was in his truck, and we were at this event that was going on in Commerce. And me and him, he handed me a beer, and we were sitting there talking about going to go get something to eat. I was just like, yeah, let's go get something to eat. And he was just like, yeah, you just park your truck in my house. Like, follow me to my house, park your truck in my house, and we'll go, ride. We'll just ride together. So we ride to his neighborhood. I park my truck in his driveway, and it's funny because we grab our beer. We get another beer because I finished the one he gave me. He finished the one he gave me. We get another. We're drinking our beer, and we're hopping in the truck. Like we're opening the door, hopping in the truck, drinking beer. Mm-hmm. And his neighbor across the street was the one with the motorcycle.
Okay.
I had a motorcycle too, but like at the time, and I used to ride in their neighborhood a lot. And the guy that I was with, he was talking about getting one. He was just like, yeah, man, I'm gonna get one. He had just went and looked that weekend at a motorcycle that he was thinking about buying. But when we ended up together, his neighbor across the street was just like, hey, man, y'all come over here real quick. So we go across to his neighbor's house. Instead of getting in the truck, going to get something to eat, we walk across the street to his neighbor's house, and we're over there talking. And he was trying to get my homie to ride his bike because he hadn't rode in a long time.
Okay.
The not the guy that I was with drinking beer. He had a dirt bike. He had done rode, but the guy who owned the bike, he hadn't rode in a while, and he didn't feel like riding it. So he was just trying to get someone else to ride it. He was just like, yeah, man, just take it around the corner, just take it around the block. With my homie, he was just like, nah, I'm good. Because like he wasn't a motorcycle rider. He was looking to buy one, but he wasn't really into it. So I'm looking at both of them. This is a part of that adrenaline that I
Yeah,
was telling
yeah.
you about. I'm looking at both of them like, man, y'all trash. Y'all scary. You ain't gonna ride the bike? And I'm looking at this guy. I was just like, you own it. And you're not gonna ride it? And I'm looking at my homie. I'm just like, you talking about buy one. You ain't gonna ride it? So he talked to her. He was just like, man, you get on it. Just take it around the corner. Just ride it. And I was just like, all right. I won't think twice about it. So I hopped on it, take it around the corner. And when I got on it, I looked at the back tire. The back tire wasn't. It was slick as a baby's butt. I should have just got off it then. But I backed out, and I'm thinking it's just one of them things like, man, I'm great. I'm like, I do this all the time. It's not nothing that's going to affect me. So I get on it, ride around the corner, go out of the neighborhood, come back in the neighborhood. When I come back in the neighborhood, going around this corner, I hit a little patch of dirt on the ground. But this tire is slick as a baby's butt, and it slid right off from under me. The bike slid. I flipped over one time and all that. What's crazy about this wreck is that, I felt normal. I tried to get up, but like when I was trying to get up, I realized that this leg right here was like my foot was literally sideways, like this. My knee was straight up in the air, but my foot was sideways. So I was like, did I just break my foot? I literally asked myself. I was like, did I just break my foot of my leg? So I called my buddy. I'm laid out on the ground because I couldn't get up. I was trying to get up. I couldn't get up.
And they couldn't see you.
No, because they were in. This is a big neighborhood, so I'm in a different section of the neighborhood than where they were.
Okay.
They could hear the motorcycle the whole time I was riding, but it got quiet. They didn't hear it no more. So when I called, I automatically, as soon as I called, I was just like, hey, man, I just broke my leg. I broke my leg. Come here, come here. He was just like, man, quit lying, quit playing. I said, bro, I'm not playing. I broke my leg. Like, come here. And he was like, oh, we on the way. So the phone hang up real quick, and then they come around the corner. I see his truck come around the corner. They get out. She's like, man, are you all right? He started looking at my knee, started looking at my leg and stuff. Then that's when it was just crazy. We all start joking, laughing. We all start joking and laughing while I'm laid out on the ground. Ambulance is on the way, police is on the way, all this stuff. Then they get there, it was just like, yeah, you gotta go to the hospital because it looks like you broke your leg. Because my knee was so dislocated that the top part, like this part up here, was pushing out the back of my leg, so it almost broke through the skin and all that. So he thought it was broke because he could feel the bone back here, but it was just completely dislocated. But that situation caused a long time of sit down. And when that happened, a lady that, so in band, it's this lady that she was the color guard director. Me and her are really close. I call her one of my mothers, but 'cause I'm close with her kids and we grew up like hanging out all the time. But it's funny because when I had that wreck and I messed my knee up, I was just like, I had the thought, I was just like, man, people don't care. Like, people don't care that you had a wreck, that you did this, and that. But one thing she told me was just like, hey, it's good that it probably happened because, some people need to be told to sit down sometimes. Some people need to be told to sit down sometimes, take a break, and rest. She was like, but you'll be all right and you'll be back to it one day. So just relax, and we'll be praying for you. And at the time, I was just like, what does she care? So like, she obviously doesn't care. She's telling me it's a good thing I had a wreck and I need to sit down. And it was funny because my dad came to me, and he was just like, man, that thing that Miss Kramer posted on your posted about you and told you about sitting down. She was just like, hey, that's a good thing that they do that. So I'm looking at my dad. I'm just like, man, what is y'all talking about? My leg, I can't even walk. So I'm just like, what is y'all talking about? And the more and more I thought about it, more and more I looked into it, I was just like, hey, maybe I do need to think about sitting down a little bit. So just like when I messed my knee up, I had no choice but to sit down and think a little bit more about stuff. It helped me grow into thinking a lot more and understanding a lot more. But I still had that, mindset of just like, hey, I'm gonna do what I want. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. I don't believe in this. Don't believe this is real. Don't believe nothing that this lady is saying or this man is saying to me. Because a bunch of people tell me, hey, I'm praying for you. Hey, I hope you be fine. But everything's gonna work out fine. God has a plan for you. You don't worry about it. I'm just looking at this going in one ear, going out the other. Not saying that I didn't believe it. I believed it, but then again, I didn't believe it. Because it's just like, if something was gonna happen to me, in my mindset, I was just like, man, if he had a plan for me, then it would have already happened. If he was gonna do this and that, then it would have already happened. So that was my mindset at the time of what I was thinking, how I was feeling, what was going on. So I didn't really care what others were saying.
Yeah.
So it made me feel like others didn't care about me. One thing about certain things to me is like, if you don't care, then of course nobody else is gonna care.
Right.
So it was just a totally different backward situation because folks are showing me that they care.
Yeah.
They're showing me that they care. They're telling me that they're praying for me. These people are praying for me. They're helping me with in any way, any form, any fashion. They're helping me, you know. So it's like I'm looking at it from the opposite of what actually is going on. You know, these people are encouraging me, giving me, you know, the mindset to do like be better. Hopefully, I get better as far as like injury wise and mentally wise too. You know, because at the time I was not necessarily like at this time this wasn't one I was having bad feelings as far as like doing anything to myself, but it was just more so to just like, hey, I don't want to be around people. I don't want to be around certain people just because I felt like, man, these people don't care. Right. So it just it gave me a whole another mindset of feeling to not that I wasn't supposed to have instead of actually having like, you know, hey, these people care, you know. Okay. So I got to reverse myself and care too. I got to show the help that these people give me because at the time I wasn't doing that. You know, like if anything happened to somebody else, you know, I looked at it as a way like, hey, they deserve it. You know, it happens. Whatever happens, happens. Yeah. So that was one major thing about it that was going on. And then when I was able to get back on my feet, moving around, a lot of things sort of like how these people were telling me, like, hey, God has a plan for you. You know, you're going to be able to do this. You're going to be able to do that. That's when I really started driving trucks, which is one thing I wanted to do. I talked to my dad about it a lot. And at the time, I was working for him. So, like, because, like, I work for y'all. And even that situation, which is another crazy thing, which like I haven't really, me and Antonio haven't talked about it. I haven't talked about it really with anyone. My parents was just like that last day of me working with Antonio was the mindset I had then was the mindset that I carried through everything. Cause even to this day, I never forget the last day of me and Antonio being on the job of us all working with each other. Like my attitude was horrible, you know. Like he pulled me. I forget the guy's name. The guy that I was picking up every morning. I forget his name, but it was me. That name is bothering me.
Not Cody.
No, Cody. That name is bothering me though.
It'll come to you later.
Yeah, it'll come to me later. It's bothering me right now, which is one thing. Since I've had this surgery, since I've had brain damage in the surgery, I'm not good with remembering names. I used to be able to remember them like that, but I can't remember it anymore. His last name was Wheeler.
Lamont? Yeah. Not Lamont, Kelvin.
Kelvin.
Yeah.
It was Kelvin. So I picked, Kelvin had done left a part on the, it was me, Kelvin, and Damien. This is when Damien was back.
Was back.
Kelvin had left a part on the truck that one thing that Antonio stressed to us about, you know, not doing, because basically a month before this day, three of our tools had then got left at places. You know, a probe was left on one spot, a hook to get the door off was left in another spot, and it was one of the only hooks that we had at the time that Antonio had just made, so we left it, all this stuff. But we were at this job pumping the septic tank, and I remember Antonio getting a phone call. See, this tank that we were pumping it was a decision that like this person had to make when Antonio made the phone call to pump it. But when we got there, we dug it up, opened the door, and we pulled all this stuff off the truck, thinking we're finna pump it when it hasn't been officially said to pump it yet. So when Antonio got there, he was telling us, hey, I'm gonna send y'all to another one. This hasn't been approved yet. So put all the stuff back up, because we got all this stuff off of this, you know. So we're putting all the stuff back up. And I remember Kelvin leaving a tool on the back of the pump truck. And then there was other stuff he was grabbing, putting up, like, as we still had tools out. But when Antonio got off the phone, he told us, hey, the person just said pump it, so pull the hoses back out, you know, and all that stuff. So we're pulling the hoses back out. But one of the tools that we needed, we were looking for Just like, hey, we need this tool. We got to have this and that. Well, Antonio found it on the back of the truck. So that's when he pulled all of us together. At first, he didn't say, hey, all three of y'all come here. We got to talk. He was talking to Kelvin about the situation, and Kelvin, like, got a little upset about what was going on. He was just like, it wasn't me. Like, you told us this, you told us that. So that was a whole different story. But me, I didn't have anything. In my mind, I'm just like, I ain't got nothing to do with this tool. So I'm not even finna stand here and be a part of this conversation. Because, like, that was my mindset at the time. But, so I'm still running around pumping stuff. And then Antonio was just like, hey, Chris, come here. Come here. So I come over there, and I never forget, off the top, I'm just questioning, just like, what do you want me for? I'm looking at it from a whole totally different perspective of him. So he's explaining to us about these tools, and then I just remember just like going off about it, you know, just being like, hey man, this ain't got nothing to do with me. You know, this ain't got nothing to do with me. And then Antonio told me, he was just like, we're talking, let's just talk. Don't just listen. And then that just like, I don't know what it was. It's just like, it just like struck nerves. And then like, I just remember just being like, nah, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. And Antonio was telling me, he was just like, do you want to go back to the shop? And I was just like, I'll leave. So I walked off the job that day, just walked off, and upset, just didn't really have the mindset that, like, the way I look back at it now, I look at myself and I'll be like, man, if I had a belt, I'd whoop myself, you know? Because it's just like, why would you, like, it's just a lot of things you don't do that you don't understand. So going through that situation was one thing that just, like, gave me a whole totally different perspective of everything. But after leaving from working with Antonio that day, I worked with my dad for the next, all the way up until I had this wreck, the wreck in 2021. Mm-hmm. So, like, I want to say I left from you in 2017. Yeah, it was 2017 when I left from you, and I worked with my dad all the way up to 2021.
Okay.
And working with my dad all the way up until then, I had the mindset of trucking. Like, hey, I want to, you know, go and finally put my CDL. Like, I want to put my CDL to a full use and go over the road. You know, I want to go over the road, drive truck, want to do this, want to do that. And after having that wreck, well, during the time before I had this wreck, working with my dad, I was wanting to do those things, and my dad was telling me, hey, it's all right if you want to do it. Like, you know, just go do it. But I didn't have the right mindset to understand everything. So like I said, I was making my own decisions to do this, thinking it was going to be okay to do it. So when I went through that wreck, and this lady was just like, hey, you know, sometimes you got to sit down, and, you know, sometimes you are put in situations to be set down, is basically what she said. That's like was almost her exact words. And at first I didn't appreciate her saying that. And then, not saying I didn't appreciate her saying it, like, I didn't say nothing bad back. I was just like, yo, thank you, okay. But the way I looked at it was just like, I don't understand what this woman's talking about. And then my dad saying it, I was just like, man, I don't understand what they talking about, you know. Because it's just like, I've been praying for this, I've been asking for this, and I still ain't got it. So it's just like, what are y'all talking about? Oh, I need to sit down, this and this and that. It's better if I keep moving. That way I can get to where I want. So that was the way I looked at it. And then after sitting down for that time period, thinking about a lot more stuff, and actually spending a little bit of time praying, then I wasn't spending as much time as I should. I would just, you know, question a few things. I would say a prayer every now and then. But, like, at the time, I'm still thinking, oh, my prayers aren't getting answered. My prayers aren't this, and that. But really, along the time, all of my prayers were being answered. It's just the way I didn't see it or didn't want them to be answered. I felt like I was supposed to just automatically have $1 million in my pocket, you know? So, I got the job to go on the road. So, me and basically my brother, me and him started driving back and forth to California every week. Oh, wow. Every week we were to California and back. We would leave out on Monday, be in California by Wednesday, be back home by Friday night. Have Saturday, Sunday off, take off, do it again. That's probably one of the times when I felt like more at peace, but my wildest times. You know, that's when I started to let a lot of things go. Just because, like, at that point I felt like I had it, you know, because I was making a lot of money doing it. So it changed a lot about the way I look at things, the way I feel about things. And that's really what changed my belief in things. When I finally got on the road, going OTR, having all this money, I felt untouchable, you know. Because it's just like the things that my dad would tell me would happen if I didn't, prepare myself for this, prepare myself for that. It wasn't happening at the time, but it was on the way. And it's something that I wasn't really worried about because I just felt untouchable. I was making so much money. Don't have kids. Don't have girlfriends. So it's like, man, I could do this. I can do that. I can go here. Can't nobody tell me nothing. So that's when a lot of my the rules, like I wasn't following any biblical rule. So I wasn't following any biblical thought.
I'm my own man.
Yeah. It's just like I'm my own man, And at the time, I'm literally thinking to myself, I ain't gonna never fail, Because it's just like I'm in this position. If anything was to happen today, I can get it back tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's the way I thought. That's the way I looked at it. Which I'm not saying you can. Like, there's things that happen to people. Like, I do feel like anything you lose, you can get back. At some point, as long as you work hard enough to do it. But it's not necessarily the fact of just like, oh, if this happens bad, I could do it myself, without God.
Yeah.
That was the way I looked at it.
Yeah.
The way I thought about things, the way I looked into it. So I feel like you definitely got to have God behind you. Say your prayers, have your beliefs in the Lord to understand what's going on, so you can make it to where you want to be at. Which is not something that I did, not something that I had. I was just like, man, I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna be all right.
So about what time frame was this? About what year was this?
This was so the end of 2021 is when I started trucking, like OTR trucking. So it was all of 2022, all of it, like the whole year.
And then did you have another accident after that?
Yeah.
Motorcycle accident, and that one was worse. I just remember pictures.
It was about the same. So I
but you were hospitalized for that one.
Yeah. So my first one, I completely dislocated my knee. I was in the hospital for that one. That one was just as far as like hospital visits and surgeries, that one was just as serious, not serious. It wasn't just as serious as the one that I have right now, like with my head, but it was as much time because I had a complete dislocation in my knee. I tore all my ligaments, tore my ACL.
Is that when they put the brace and all that on there?
The X-Fix?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I had an X-Fix in my leg on the outside.
I think I saw you after you basically start healing and all that.
Yeah, so I messed my knee up, tore it up, and then when you came to my sister's house to pump her septic tank, then this was after that, yeah. This was after I had done messed my knee up. But that was before I had done broke my leg.
Okay.
So when I seen you at my sister's house pumping her septic tank, that was the year that I broke my leg.
Okay.
On another motorcycle ride.
Okay.
I was on my Harley because I bought a Harley. So when I was working with my dad, it's funny because before I was on the road, I was OTR going back and forth from California and all that stuff. My dad was just telling me, he was just like, yeah, man, like come back out here for a little bit, work with me for a couple months, and then we'll get our own truck. And I was questioning, I don't know if I want to lay blocks. I think I could rather continue driving. It was just questionable. But then I got to think, I was just like, nah, I'd somewhat rather be back home too because I'm tired of being away. So we worked it out. I came back home. I ended up buying a Harley. He helped me get the Harley. Bought my Harley Davidson, and then it just went. Like, I was still in this mindset of just like, when I was on the road in my truck, I was just like, man, not in my truck, but in the truck. Because at the time, I didn't have my truck yet. So this is when I was with a company. At the time, I was just like, man, I'm untouchable. You know what I'm saying? I'm this, I'm that. But I've always wanted a Harley. Like, I wanted a Harley. My main three things that I want was a Harley, a Corvette, and a Ford F-250.
Okay.
So I was just like, man, those are my vehicles that I want, my main things, Yeah. And it's funny because, like, at the time when my dad was saying something about coming off the road, he was just like, yeah, man, just come off. You save your money, you take your money, we'll get a Harley, and I'll help you get a truck. And you stay out here with me for 6 months, I'll help you get a truck.
Yeah.
I was just like, I'm coming home.
Yeah.
So I went home. We get this Harley. We get the Harley, and man, thought I felt untouchable in that truck. that was an untouchable time.
Yeah.
Just cause like I got a lot of attention on it. A lot of talking to people. That's when I started drinking heavily a lot more. Um, just there, I literally leave my house in the morning like I did now on my motorcycle, and I wouldn't get back home till 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. You know, and I'm out on this motorcycle all day at different places, doing this, doing that, hanging out with this, hanging out with that. You know, so it's just like I felt untouchable. You know, but then I went out one night and was out late and had a wreck. Well, I used to. It's funny. I told myself one thing that's crazy that I used to tell myself when I was on this Harley, because I acted crazy on crotch rockets, like with the fast ones, act crazy. That was the adrenaline thing that I was looking for, you know. So it got to a point where like I started around Harley, and my adrenaline wasn't necessarily really speed no more. It was the attention of people, just like to not necessarily the attention of people to just have people running up talking to me, all this stuff, but just like I love when people will look at you, like look at me, So I'm riding by on this motorcycle. It has this big, huge 26-inch tire in front of it. I'm riding around, I'm looking clean, and like you're getting a lot of eyes look at you, you're getting a lot of looks look at you. So I'm literally riding around feeling like I'm the man, I'm that guy, But I used to always tell people like, man, if anything ever happens to me on this motorcycle, it's gonna be another car hitting me or hitting a deer. So y'all don't have to worry about me on this motorcycle.
Yeah.
I literally used to say that. Like I used to tell my dad that, used to tell my mom that, used to tell my friends. I used to tell them, oh, you don't gotta worry about me. I'm safe on this. Because every time I get on a motorcycle, after I had the wrecks I done had and been through the stuff that I've been through, anytime I would get on my Harley or any bike, period, everybody would always say, man, ride that thing safe, man. Be safe.
Yeah. Be
safe. Don't, this and this and that. But every time somebody would tell me to be safe, it's like I went against it, Instead of just being like, all right, man, thank you. I'd be like, man, ain't nothing finna happen to me. I literally tell people, ain't nothing finna happen to me. I'd be like, bro, on this Harley, you ain't gotta worry about me. I'm safe. Yeah. I like the only way I wreck is if another car hit me or if I get hit by a deer. I would literally say that. So and then what's crazy is when I had that wreck, I got hit by a deer.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, man.
Yeah, like that's how I wrecked that Harley.
Wow.
Got hit by a deer. The deer hit me. Like I didn't see it. Like I didn't see it in front of me and just, kept going or slow down. It's not like I tried to see a deer and tried to slow down. Mm-hmm. I was going down the road. I seen a smudge of black jump right in front of me. It was 2 deers. One jumped right in front of me and made it by. The second one, boom, smacked me, like hit me on my side. That's how I broke my leg. What's crazy, like the same leg that I had my knee replacement on and all this stuff, the same leg I broke. So I broke it. Boom, I'm right back down, sitting down. And then what's crazy, when I had that wreck, I told myself some things happen because you need to sit down. You got to do this and that. So it's just crazy the stuff that comes around full circle that people tell you, and you really take the time to understand and listen to it instead of having a negative feeling about it. Then you'll understand a whole lot more of what goes on. Because then I told myself then, like, hey, maybe I need to sit down. Because I couldn't leave a Harley alone. Yeah. So it was just like, man, maybe I do need to sit down.
So did that mindset start to change at that point when you sat down with that wreck? Like that you're indestructible, or did you any change in your mindset or attitude at that point?
So my mindset at that point, as far as the change of it, it changed me to think I was a better person. Not necessarily like off the rip. No, I wasn't thinking like, oh, I'm a better person. I'm this, I'm that. It helped me to somewhat think of myself of being a better person. Becoming a better person, which is the steps through this that next year. Those were the steps of as far as just like, hey, let's work on this. Let's work on that. Okay. Let's work on yourself along with, being able to be around other people and, not really just talk bad about them or deteriorate them or make it seem like they're bad or anything like that. So,
and then is that next year when you did start struggling with depression some?
So this whole time at the end of at the end of that year is when the whole like depression situation came up, because after I had that wreck on my Harley, um, that's when I realized that like financially things aren't gonna be okay until I get back up, And at the time I was down, you know. But that was the main that was my main thing at that time was just like, hey, I need to do this, I need to do that. So the main thing that hit me after having that wreck was the main thought really was it was money.
So you had all this money coming in when you're driving over the road, and then
Yeah, I had all. So that's the thing. When I
kind of
was on the road,
stops.
in and out of California, back and forth, doing a lot of driving in, money wasn't a thought in my mind. It wasn't a thought. It wasn't nothing that I worried about. Wasn't nothing that I had to question or anything like that. Whenever I wanted to go on a trip, I went. Whenever I wanted to go buy something, I bought it. Um, Whenever someone wanted to go somewhere, I would take them and pay for it. So it wasn't nothing questionable at the time. When I got my Harley and I came back home working with my dad, that's when I first started to like try to manage a little bit more of my money, but I wasn't managing it enough to even care about it. Besides just like, hey, I need to hold on to this much now instead of this. Because when I was on the road on the truck, like I made so much weekly that like I didn't care how much I made because I knew I wasn't gonna run out. Because like I'm in the truck most of the time anyway.
Right.
I'm only home on the weekends spending money.
Yeah.
So a lot of the money I was gonna have anyway. So I wasn't looking into it as far as just like, oh, a situation. But when I'm home, when I got home with my dad, I'm home now. You know, I'm going out to eat every day. I'm around people hanging out every day. I'm drinking a lot more because I'm not driving. So I'm buying more alcohol. I'm buying more of this, buying more of that. So it's just a lot of money getting spent on a lot of different things when I was working with my dad before I had that wreck. Before I had the wreck to break my leg, I was working with him, so I managed a little bit more of it and learned how to hold on to it, to where like it wasn't gonna be an issue. But then after I had the wreck and broke my leg, I couldn't do nothing.
Okay.
There was no work, there was no funds to continue to keep coming in. So the funds that I had to get spent on anything that I needed as a necessity, which was something that I wasn't doing, not nothing that I had to worry about. So when that happened, that situation is when the financial thought hit me, where it was just like, all right. And at first, it wasn't nothing major to me because I've never been the type to let money bother me, and it's not the fact that money bothers me. Even with the situation, like when I was going through this depression stage, like money wasn't the issue that was bothering me. It was just the fact that I didn't have what I needed, which I guess you could say comes along with money. But a lot of times it doesn't come along with money, because a lot of times people will need a necessity, that they need the necessity to have the money for it. It's just the fact that they can't get it right then. Yeah. So they feel a little bit different about it versus to where like at the time, that's basically how it was for me. Like I felt like things were necessities that weren't necessities instead of handling necessities. So when I was going without work, like after I broke my leg and I'm down, at the time I didn't have a job. I'm out with my dad driving around, dropping stuff off like bricks and blocks and picking up sand and dropping it off and stuff like that. So I was making money, but I wasn't making enough money to get me to the point where I wanted to be at. So it was just like, nah, like this ain't gonna work out, this and this and that. Which is one thing that a bunch of people don't think about when they're thinking about money. They don't think about the fact that everybody doesn't have it. So it takes a little bit of time to get to the point where you want to be at, which is not something that I thought about. I was expecting this to happen just, quick.
Yeah.
Like I want to go to work every day this week when on the end of the day on payday, I want to make $1,500. I don't want no $800. I don't want no $500. I don't want no this and this and that. I want my 15. When you were never promised 15.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it was one of them things I look at where it was just like I was doing a whole lot of begging for nothing, So that's what got me to that point, to like this depression mode, and like at the time, I've never really came out and been like, man, I'm depressed. I'm going through depression, because not saying that as me growing up as a boy or as a man, I wasn't raised to be like quiet about stuff. I wasn't raised to be a certain type of way. Like, oh no, don't have those feelings. Don't have this. Like, don't feel like you're this and this and that, this and this and that. So at the time, it's just like us growing up as like me growing up as a guy. All my like I grew up around straight girls, like all girls. I was the only guy. My cousin is younger than me. He's a couple years younger than me. He's a boy, but he was the next one to come along.
Yeah.
So what I'm getting at about this, like, I wasn't raised to necessarily be like, oh, don't you cry, don't you do this, don't you do that, because you know how a lot of boys are taught that way. They're taught like, oh nah, man, like, man, keep your emotions to yourself. Don't cry about this. Don't cry about that. Like, as a man, learn how to deal with it. As a man, learn how to deal with this, and that. So that was my quietness at the time. Like, I wasn't going around telling nobody like, man, this right here bothering me. I'm depressed about this. I'm depressed about that. I'm depressed about this. I sucked it all in, you know.
Well, and I remember you
Took
saying
a deep
like
breath, sucked it in.
I remember you saying in your testimony, because that is like maybe one of the first times you had actually mentioned it.
Yeah, and it was like I've never talked to nobody about it for the simple fact that just like this is what I was saying about like growing up. You grow up growing up a certain way. Me being a guy and the only guy around all these females, I don't want these girls to see me upset about something because then they gonna pick on me.
Right.
I don't want these girls to come to you and be like, man, quit doing this and now I got to be the tough guy.
Right.
You know, so that's the way it was viewed for me, and even still now, it's something that like a battle to deal with as far as anything you're going through, which I feel like everybody battles with it, whether it's a man, woman, little kid, or I don't care who you are, you're gonna battle with anything that's going on to tell somebody.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because it could be positives they're gonna tell you, but you're gonna hear more negatives about certain stuff, which is good negatives. It's good for people to hear negatives, but people don't want to hear negatives because they don't want to. Not saying that they don't want to work on nothing, but it's something people know that they need to work on. They don't want to hear nothing negative about it because they haven't found a way to work on it yet, and they don't want to hear from nobody else how to do it. You know.
Well, you know, like just in the whole podcast, that's what one of the things we're trying to do is create a community of people and letting them know that you're not the only one going through what you're going through
at all.
You know, and just letting people know you can express it. There are people out here to help you in those situations and those different things. Like for me, you know, just dealing with the prostate cancer, it was like talking to a lot of men that were suffering in silence, dealing with these different issues. And it just opened me up to a whole new world where they wasn't talking about it like in public, but then, you know, having these private conversations, it's like, oh my goodness.
Right.
You know, and so just, you know, like what you're experiencing, you know, I was experiencing, it's just like we're trying to let people know that, you know, we all have different stories.
Right.
And we all go through different things, but we're trying to create that to where you're not going through it alone.
Right.
You know?
A lot of people, I feel like a lot of people get the feeling of when they're going through something, especially something bad or something that they don't like, when they're going through that feeling, when they finally do express their thoughts to someone else, like I was saying earlier, they don't want to hear the bad side of it, which is why I feel like a bunch of people have quit going to church, which is one reason I quit going to church.
Yeah.
You know, when I quit going, which is one reason I quit going, for the simple fact that, like, you know, when you go into church, like, I know my life. I know what I've done in my life. And I know the things that suffer me right now to do the right things, you know what I'm saying? And I feel like that's something with everybody. Like, you know, like you have your life, you have your life, you have your this, and that. But we'll all go to the same church and sit in there and enjoy church, you know, for what we need to hear. A lot of reasons why I feel like people don't go to church now is because, like, when you go in church and you have this feeling of wrongness that you know that you do this and this and that, I feel like that's why you need to go to church. But a bunch of people don't want to go to church because they don't want to hear about their wrongness.
Yeah.
You know, they don't want to hear about the wrongness of what they do or anything like that, which not saying a bunch of people fail to realize that just like when you go to church and talk about the wrongness of things that you do, it's the simplicity of it is basically to understand the fact of how to fix it and understand how to fix it and pray about it and work on it and continue to move forward from it, instead of just like, oh, I'm a bad person, I do this, the church is telling me I'm a bad person, I do this, I'm going to hell.
Right.
No, nobody's telling you that.
Right.
You're going to hell.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Which is one of my mindsets that I had, was just like, I mean, I was drinking profusely. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Drinking profusely. Any girl that I came across that I liked, you know, if I wanted to have a sexual relationship with her, that's what I did, you know. So it was just one of them things that I looked into this and that. So like, I didn't want to go to church and hear about that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So it's just one of them things where it's just like a bunch of people, no matter what's going on, people don't want to hear the bad side of what's, you know, of how to fix something,
right,
or how to work through it. So at the time of the situation when I was in my truck trying to figure out how to manage money, manage this, manage that, try to get rich, you know what I'm saying, pay off everything that's going on, it was just a big heavy thing that was going on with me. And then at the time, you know, I'm in a relationship as well, so it's like, man, I'm trying to make this girl happy. She got kids. I need to make all them happy. She's upset about this. You know, I'm not making her happy. Me and my mom then got into it over a money situation that, like, I should have been done paid this. I just haven't paid it because I'm trying to do this instead. I'm trying to make sure my company is good. At the same time, along with going through all this, I'm drinking alcohol. I'm feeding myself with alcohol every day. The problems that I'm having, I'm not praying about, because when I pray about them, they don't get answered. When I'm out doing this, doing that, like this person's telling me this about how, like, oh, I need to work on this, I need to fix that, when I feel like I'm already great at it. So it's just like, hey, what's going on? So the depression's hitting.
yeah,
You know, I'm starting to feel like, hey, I'm not a great person. I'm a sorry dude. Like, I done did this, I done did that. I done made this person feel like this, I done made this person feel like that. This person tells me I'm not great.
yeah,
And I live with this person.
yeah,
So why are they telling me I'm not great? You know?
yeah,
I'm arguing with my mama. My mama birthed me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like, why are we disagreeing on certain situations? Why is it done got to this, and that? So in my mindset, it's like, hey, I'm obviously not a great person. You know what I'm saying? That was my mindset. Just like, man, I'm obviously not a great person. I'm just a sorry dude. Let's just end it all.
Yeah.
That's when the whole suicidal thought came in.
Yeah.
You know, which is like, it's not something that's like, oh, this is hard to talk about, this, and this, and that. It's just like, I didn't know how to say nothing to nobody about it. So that was the hard thing that was going on at the time, which is still like, it is a little emotional to think about, just because like I look at myself and I be like, man, I can't believe I was even thinking like that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because like growing up knowing, hey, suicide is its own sin. You know what I'm saying? Like you have no way to make yourself right by killing yourself.
right,
You know? But at the time it was just like, I didn't care to be right. I was already looked at as wrong.
yeah,
Everybody looked at me as wrong. Nobody cared.
right,
Like that was my feeling. I was feeling like, oh, nobody cared.
yeah,
Nobody this, nobody that. Why am I arguing with my mama?
yeah,
The girl that I call my girlfriend that I live with, that I'm helping pay all this for, she's helping me too, but then I still turn around, I'm the bad guy. I'm a bad person. So that was the thing that was just like dealing with at the time, made me realize just like, hey, you gotta better yourself before you can get rid of yourself.
yeah,
You know, so that's one of the main things that I went through then, with the depression, the suicidal thought, and all that stuff. And I spent a bunch of time alone at the time because I had my truck and I was driving. But so I'm driving. I'm in the truck. I'm driving. There's a lot of times that I drive. You know, you in the truck for hours and
Yeah.
you driving for hours. There's only so much music you can listen to.
Yeah.
Only so many videos you can watch.
yeah,
So at some point, you're gonna have to think to yourself.
yeah. A long time.
You
to
know,
think.
you're gonna have to. So that's the one thing that hit me. And I'm driving. I was like, a lot of times I'm driving quiet and I'm sitting there just like this, driving for hours. The only time I would look somewhere different is when I look up at the GPS, see what's going on. But this whole time I'm thinking about crazy stuff, crazy stuff. And I'll never forget one day, me and my girls arguing. Me and my mom had this disagreement. It was just crazy. Cody and Brittany arguing about stuff that they're going through, and I'm trying to help them, and I can't be no help because it's not working. I was like, I feel like, hey, it's not working. Like I'm not a great person myself. Like I'm getting called horrible. So it was just like, man, I'm driving one day, and I'm just like, and I keep my pistol on me just to be safe. So I'm sitting and I'm riding. And I was just like, man, I should just pull over and just end it all right now.
Yeah.
When somebody finds this truck and they find me in it, it just is what it is, you know. That was my thought. But I don't know. It was just a message that just hit me. It was just like, man, just keep driving.
Yeah.
You know, keep driving and go home. So I, you know, kept driving, went to go do the job, went home that day, and I didn't have nothing bad happened when I got home. Nothing bad was going on. It all worked out pretty good when I got home, but it was just like one of them thoughts that would cross my mind every now and then. I would tell myself, hey, if I get pushed to the limit, then I'm just going to end it all. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm obviously not helping nobody. Like, that was my thought. Like, I'm obviously not helping nobody. I'm obviously a bad person, you know. So it's just like one thing to another, leading up to all this stuff. It's just giving me bad emotion to make me look back at this picture in the mirror, look at myself in the mirror and be like, hey, let's work on myself before I just say it's over. You know what I'm saying? So that's when I started to somewhat work on myself as far as like thinking a little bit more, processing a little bit more of understanding, you know what I'm saying? So, but then even after all that, like me and the girl that I was with, we separated. The job that I had when I was hauling at that time, see, I done got out of hauling refrigerator used like I got out of hauling poultry and tea and all that stuff. I was hauling for Cargill out of Gainesville. They haul soy, chicken feed. Basically, I was hauling that. But at the time, me and my girl, we separated. That job, I got laid off from it because it was getting slow and all that stuff. So at this point, right before I had my wreck, literally 2 weeks before I had my wreck, I was back out there with my dad. Okay. I just got back out there with him.
Okay.
And but I told myself then, it's crazy. I told myself then, I was like, man, I'm canceling trucking for now.
Okay.
So like, that's one thing that helped me realize it. Just like that's where a lot of my stress was coming from. But then once I quit trucking and got rid of a lot of that stress, I started adding on more stuff that I used to do instead of building myself up, bettering myself. Okay. You know, I started back heavily drinking, which I was heavily drinking anyway, but it got a lot heavier because I'm not driving every day.
Yeah.
You know, it's just I'm not driving every day. I'm home. Heavy drinking, heavy, you know, situations with other girls. So it's just like I'm in and out of all this stuff where I don't know, it was just getting hectic.
So that's the mindset you had going into April 3rd of last year.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the exact mindset.
So April 3rd, 2024, tell us what happened.